Title: Never Open Your Door at 3 a.m. Chapter 1: The Knock. It was exactly 3:00 a.m. when Oliver Hale heard the first knock. 3 slow taps against his front door. He sat upright in bed, heart thudding. Outside, the world was silent. No wind. No rain. Just the rhythmic creaking of an old house asleep. He lived alone, deep in the countryside of Maine, in a home surrounded by thick forest. Visitors were rare during the day. At night? Unthinkable. The knock came again. He reached for his phone. No service. He checked the clock again, 3:01 a.m. Whoever it was hadn't called out. They hadn't rung the doorbell. Just knocked. As if they knew he'd hear. Oliver slipped on a hoodie, grabbed the baseball bat he kept under his bed, and walked down the creaking stairs. The hallway leading to the door stretched like a tunnel, shadows thick and unmoving. He paused at the door. Another knock. Chapter 2: The Stranger. Through the peephole, Oliver saw nothing. He turned on the porch light. Still nothing. No one on the steps. No footprints in the thin dusting of snow that covered the porch. He waited. Knock. 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 This time the sound came from the back door. He spun around. No one had ever come from the back. That led directly into the woods. Oliver stepped cautiously to the kitchen, heart in his throat. The backyard was pitch black beyond the windows. He reached the back door, listened. Silence. Then, at a whisper, right behind him. In Chapter 3, The Thing in the Hall. Oliver turned sharply, bat raised. No one. The hallway light flickered. Then, from the very end of the hall near the stairs, a shape stepped into view. It looked almost human, tall, thin, dressed in what resembled an old-fashioned funeral suit. Its face, however, was a blur, like someone had smeared oil across a photograph. Oliver couldn't move. The figure raised a hand and pointed at the door. Knock. 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 But no one was there. The knocking was coming from inside the walls. Chapter 4: Rules of 3 a.m. Oliver's grandmother had warned him as a child, never open your door at 3 a.m. It's when the world forgets what's real. He thought it was just superstition, folklore. But now the clocks in the house were frozen at 3 a.m. The figure was gone. The knocking had stopped. Then his phone vibrated. A message. You looked. From a number he didn't recognize. Then another. Now open. The front door unlocked by itself. Then Chapter 5, The Visitor. The door creaked open slowly. No one stood there. But the forest outside was wrong. Trees bent at impossible angles. The air shimmered. And in the center of the path stood a child-sized shadow, unmoving. It took a step forward. Oliver slammed the door. Locked it. Ran upstairs. Outside, more shadows emerged from the forest. 1, 2, 10. Faces hidden, bodies twitching slightly, like puppets on invisible strings. He shut the curtains, turned on all the lights. They flickered and went out. Chapter 6, The Mirror Test. In the dark, Oliver remembered another old tale. They can't reflect. If you see it in the mirror, it's not them. He grabbed a flashlight and ran to the hallway mirror. His own reflection stared back, terrified. But behind him, a figure stood. He turned around, nothing there. He looked again. Still there. Its face was clearer now. It looked like Oliver, but older, hollowed out, eyes black as void. It mouthed words he couldn't hear. Then smiled. Chapter 7, The Loop. He awoke in bed. 300 a.m. Knock. 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 He checked the door. Nothing. He turned on lights. They worked. Had it been a dream? He turned on the TV. Every channel showed static. Then a face appeared, his own. Screaming silently, then the knock again. This time he opened the door. A mirror image of himself stood there. "Let me in." Chapter 8. No escape. He slammed the door, but time no longer moved. He was trapped in the 3 a.m. loop. Each time he resisted, the knock grew louder, closer. Each time he gave in, the world shifted more. The forest invaded his house. The walls bled. The figure became him, and he became forgotten. Epilogue. Found footage. Weeks later, hikers found the house abandoned. Inside were hundreds of drawings of clocks, each stopped at 3 a.m. On the wall was a message: "Never open your door at 3 a.m. But below it, in smeared ink, another message: "You already did." The Babysitter's Last Night. A psychological horror story that unfolds one rule at a time. Prologue. The call, it was supposed to be just another babysitting job. The call came at 6:45 p.m. A woman's voice, calm but rushed. "We'll be out just for the evening. Our son's name is Eli. He's quiet. He goes to bed by 8. Do you need me to cook for him?" Emma asked. "No. Everything's prepared. Just keep an eye on the house. And don't let him open the front door." The last sentence echoed oddly. Chapter 1. The New House. The address was unfamiliar. A quiet, older neighborhood with trees that hung low and streetlights that flickered. The kind of place that felt paused in time. Emma parked her car across the street and walked up the front steps. The porch creaked with each step. She rang the bell. The door opened a crack. Eli stood behind it. He looked around 8 years old, pale, thin. Eyes too serious for his age. "You're Emma," he said flatly. "Mom said not to open the door all the way." "Okay." She smiled, trying to ease the tension. "Well, I'm here now, ready to hang out." He didn't move, just stepped back slowly, leaving the door open halfway. Chapter 2. The Quiet Boy. Inside, the house was clean but sterile. The furniture was old, the wallpaper outdated. There were no pictures of the family, no toys lying around, no warmth. "Want to watch something?" Emma offered. Eli shook his head. "I already watched my hour." "You can watch more, I won't tell." "I can't," he said. "The man doesn't like noise after dark." Emma paused. "What man?" He turned his head toward the hallway. "He watches from the dark part of the house." Chapter 3. Strange Rules. By 8:30 p.m., Emma started to feel the chill. The thermostat said 70 degrees, but her skin had goosebumps. Every corner of the house seemed alert. That's when Eli handed her a folded piece of paper. It was handwritten, a list. Rules for staying safe. Don't open the door unless someone knocks 3 times. Don't answer the phone if it rings but makes no sound. Don't look into the hallway mirror after 9 p.m. Don't follow the sound of crying. Don't go into the basement, ever. Did your parents write this? He didn't answer. He just looked toward the mirror. Chapter 4. The Mirror. At 9:01 p.m. she broke the rule. It wasn't intentional. She walked past the hallway mirror to grab her phone, but when she caught a glimpse, she froze. In the reflection, she wasn't alone. A tall figure stood behind her. Thin. Long arms. No face. She turned around. No one was there. She looked again. The figure had moved closer in the reflection. Chapter 5. The Silent Call. At 9:17 p.m. the house phone rang. It had no ringtone, no sound. just blinking red lights. Eli appeared in the doorway. "Don't answer it." But her hand moved on its own. The receiver lifted to her ear. There was static at first, then a voice. "You looked in the mirror. You saw him. He sees you now." Chapter 6. Footage. In the living room stood an old monitor, connected to a small camera facing the front door. Emma sat down to watch the tape. Rewound. She saw herself arriving. She saw herself walking into the house. She saw herself entering the kitchen. Then, another Emma appeared behind her. The figure followed her room to room, but Emma had never seen her. Chapter 7. The tape in the closet. The closet in the hallway creaked open by itself. Inside, a dusty box. Inside the box, a videotape labeled Emma, 2024. She didn't own a VCR, but Eli handed her one. "I think it's your last night," he whispered. Chapter 8. Watching herself, she inserted the tape. Static. Then, footage of her, sitting in this very room, watching a tape, over and over again. Each version of herself looked more tired, more afraid, less real. Behind her in the footage, the figure stood. Closer. Closer. Then, black screen. Chapter 9. Whispers in the walls. The walls started whispering her name, over and over. Sometimes a scream, sometimes sobbing, sometimes lullabies. She ran to Eli's room. He wasn't in bed, but the blanket was still warm. Chapter 10. The photo box. She searched the master bedroom. In the closet, a shoebox labeled sitters, inside Polaroids of girls. Different faces. Same expression, fear. Each one had a name and year written in ink. Claire, 2016. Jenna, 2017. Sam, 2018. Emma, 2024. Chapter 11. The basement door. It opened on its own. Steps led into pitch black. A breeze came up the stairs. It smelled like soil and something rotting. A voice rose from below. "Emma, bring him back." Chapter 12. Not Eli. When she found him again, he wasn't Eli. His voice was different. His eyes completely black. "I've been so many things," he said, "but this is my favorite skin." She backed away. He smiled. His teeth were too sharp. Chapter 13. The deal. The figure appeared in the hallway. Tall. Shadow-like. Wearing the faces of the girls in the Polaroids. Flickering like a broken screen. It spoke with every voice at once. "You stay." He leaves. A soul for a soul. Chapter 14. The last rule. Emma ran. But the front door was gone. Only the mirror remained. And carved into its glass, the only way out is through the reflection. She stepped forward. Epilogue. New call 1 week later. A new girl. A new job. "Just sit with our son, Eli. He's quiet. You won't even notice him." Click. The tape starts again. The forgotten patient. Chapter 1. The return of the file. Dr. Elias Ward didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in trauma, dissociation, and chemical imbalances. His job at the Boston Mental Health Review Board was to review historical case files from defunct institutions, most of which closed after federal reforms in the 80s. That Friday evening, as the office emptied out and the glow of his desk lamps softened in the encroaching dusk, a courier arrived with a box marked St. Augustine Psychiatric Hospital, decommissioned 1982. Inside, brittle folders sat untouched for decades. Most had patient numbers instead of names. One in particular was slimmer than the others, with faded red ink that read, "Patient 532, unknown." The folder contained only a handful of documents, none official. One hand-scrawled note dated March 11, 1979 read, "He stares through the walls, claims the night speaks, refuses to give a name. We've isolated him after the incident." Below was a photograph. A child, maybe 10, sat on a hospital cot, eyes blacked out with thick pen marks. Ward shivered. Chapter 2, Whispers in the Vents. He took the file home, intending to scan it into the state archives. That night, as wind howled against the windows of his old brownstone, he reviewed the notes in detail. Each staff member who interacted with patient 532 wrote of strange experiences. Hearing their names whispered in vents, lights flickering when the boy was agitated, shadows appearing behind them in mirrors. Most unsettling were the final entries. March 12, 1979, Dr. Keller. I saw him in my dreams, woke with a nosebleed and the taste of iron. March 13, 1979, Nurse Rhonda. He said I would never leave. Now I see him in the empty beds. After that, nothing. No discharge, no transfer, no death certificate. Only a torn note. He is still here. Chapter 3. The Sleep Paralysis Incident. That night, Ward woke at 3:08 a.m., paralyzed in his bed. The room was dark, but the shadows were moving. Slowly, deliberately, his breath caught. At the foot of his bed, something shifted. A child's silhouette. Then two eyes, black and endless, blinked into existence. "You found me," a voice said. Ward woke screaming. Chapter 4. The Return to St. Augustine. Compelled by something he couldn't explain, Ward requested access to the ruins of St. Augustine. The facility, sealed after a fire in 1982, stood forgotten on a lonely hill in northern Massachusetts. Inside, time had frozen. Medical tools rusted. Files scattered. But in the basement, in the isolation ward, he found a single cell with deep scratch marks on the door. Burned into the concrete wall was the number 532 and the words, "I remember you." Chapter 5. Audio Logs. Ward discovered a set of reel-to-reel tapes, each marked with dates spanning only 1 week. March 8, 14, 1979. He digitized them and listened. Tape 1, a boy repeating, "They live in the wires." Tape 2, screaming. Tape 3, a doctor shouting, "He changed the room, it's not just him, he's bringing something." Tape 4, silence, then whispering in reverse. When reversed, the whisper said, "The forgotten must be remembered." Chapter 6. The Doctor's Descent. Ward began to unravel. He saw children in the reflections of microwaves, in puddles, in the reflection of his own glasses. He received anonymous letters in his mailbox, written in red crayon. "You saw me first." At work, he was reprimanded for erratic behavior. He snapped at colleagues, barely slept. His walls were covered in pinned articles, trying to find who patient 532 was. No birth records. No missing children matched the description. Chapter 7. The Hospital's Secret. A janitor who had worked at St. Augustine in the 70s came forward. He said the boy was never admitted. He was found abandoned in room 14 with no explanation. No records. No one saw him come in. But patients and staff began to disappear. The boy was moved to solitary. Then, the fire. The state covered it up. "He's a ghost?" Ward asked. "No," the janitor replied. "Worse. He's a memory no one was allowed to forget." Chapter 8. Final Tape. Ward recorded a message. If anyone finds this, stop researching patient 532. Don't dig into the past. The forgotten want to be remembered. That's how they return. He ended the tape. That night, neighbors reported screams from his house. When police entered, the walls were covered in crayon drawings of a black-eyed boy. Ward was gone. Only one message remained scratched into the mirror. I was never a patient. I was a witness. Epilogue. Who is patient 532? Today, no records of patient 532 exist in official archives, but the photograph Ward found, it appears in different places online. A Reddit thread, a haunted artifact listing, a YouTube video that glitches midway. Always the same photo, always with the eyes scratched out. The man in the vents. I've always been a light sleeper. Every little noise wakes me up. Cars passing outside, creaks in the floorboards, even the hum of my fridge in the next room. That's why at first I didn't think much of the faint scratching sound coming from my vents. It was soft, barely noticeable, a gentle rustling, like a mouse scurrying through the ducts. I lived in an old apartment building, so I figured it was just bad insulation or maybe even a small animal. But then it started happening every night, at exactly 2:47 a.m. I didn't set an alarm or anything. It was always the noise that woke me. At first it was just the scratching, but then I started hearing something else. Breathing. Shallow. Ragged. Almost human. I told myself it was my imagination, the way people hear voices in white noise or see shapes in the dark. But after a week I couldn't ignore it anymore. I decided to check the vents. The next morning I grabbed a flashlight and a screwdriver. The vent cover in my bedroom was easy to remove, just a few screws holding it in place. I shined the light inside, half expecting to see a rat scurrying away. Nothing. Just dust and darkness. Still, I wasn't convinced. That night I stayed up waiting for the sound. 2:47 a.m. Right on schedule. Scratch. Scratch. I held my breath, straining to hear. And then, breathing. Closer this time. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it directly into the vent. For a split second I saw something. Something pale. Something watching me. Then it vanished. I jumped back, my heart hammering. Had I imagined it? Was it a trick of the light? I barely slept that night. The crawl space. The next day I called my landlord. I told him I thought there was an animal in the vents. He seemed annoyed, but agreed to send someone to check it out. A maintenance guy showed up a few hours later. He was in his late 40s, a little overweight, and looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "You sure it ain't just rats?" he asked, yawning. "I saw something," I insisted. "A face." That got his attention. He frowned, then grabbed his tools. "Let's take a look." We started in my bedroom, but again, the vent looked empty. Then he had an idea. "Building's got a crawl space," he said. "Runs through all the vents. If someone or something is in there, that's where they'd be." He led me to a small door in the hallway. I'd never really noticed it before, just assumed it was a storage closet or something. He unlocked it and a damp, musty smell hit me immediately. The crawl space was narrow, just big enough for someone to crawl through. Wires and pipes lined the walls. It stretched into darkness. "Stay here," he said, pulling out a flashlight. "I'll check it out." He disappeared into the tunnel, his light bobbing as he moved deeper. I stood there waiting. A minute passed, then two. Then I heard it. A scream. Not a normal scream. A gurgling, choking sound like someone being dragged away. I backed up, my hands shaking. "Hey, are you okay?" No answer. The flashlight was still on the ground, its beam pointing into the darkness. Then footsteps, coming toward me. Fast. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Something slammed into it from the other side. I ran. The escape, I didn't stop running until I was outside. I grabbed my phone and called the police. By the time they arrived, the pounding had stopped. They checked the crawl space but didn't find anything. No body. No sign of the maintenance guy. But there was one thing. His flashlight. And next to it, deep scratches on the walls, like fingernail marks. The police took my statement and searched the building, but they never found him. No one even remembered hiring him. The landlord swore up and down that no maintenance call had been made that day. I moved out the next week. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I wake up thinking I hear it again. Scratch, scratch, and then breathing, right outside my new vent. The end. Title: The Man Who Lived in the Mirror. Prologue. Reflections. They say mirrors reflect our souls. But what if they reflect something else? Something that watches, learns, and waits. For Marcus Hale, his reflection began watching him back. At first, it was a flicker, a subtle twitch that didn't align. But as days passed, the sensation grew into a presence. Marcus always hated mirrors. They showed him a version of himself that never quite felt right. It wasn't vanity, he simply disliked how mirrors made him feel vulnerable, transparent. As if someone or something was looking through him, not at him. Chapter 1. Moving in. Marcus had just turned 31 when he inherited his uncle's house in the sleepy town of Norbridge. A quiet man with few attachments, Marcus viewed it as a fresh start after a long battle with depression. The house was large, aged, and filled with relics from another time. Dark wooden floors creaked underfoot. Old chandeliers flickered with uneven light, and heavy curtains hung like shadows over the windows. But the mirrors, there were dozens. Full-length mirrors leaned against walls. Small, intricately carved ones hung in hallways. Vanity mirrors stood like sentinels in every room. His uncle had been a collector, but Marcus found it unnerving. Still, he didn't question it. Not at first. Norbridge was the kind of place where neighbors kept to themselves, and the fog never truly lifted. A town forgotten by time. Marcus had hoped for quiet. Instead, he found isolation. Chapter 2. The Bathroom Mirror. The second night in the house, Marcus entered the bathroom to brush his teeth. The air was colder than the rest of the house. He noticed condensation on the mirror. Strange, considering he hadn't used hot water. After finishing, he flicked off the light. A movement in the mirror caught his eye. He paused, flicked the light back on. Nothing. Just his own startled reflection. He leaned in, peering closely. His eyes were bloodshot from fatigue, his skin pale. He chalked it up to stress. A new house, new environment. Maybe he wasn't adjusting well. But that night, he dreamed of mirrors. Walls of glass that shimmered and pulsed like living skin. Chapter 3. Misaligned. The strange moments escalated. His reflection seemed off, not just lagging or delayed, but subtly wrong. The angles weren't right. The way the reflection's mouth curved wasn't his. The eyes lacked something, warmth maybe, or soul. He tested it. Made sudden movements, stared for long stretches, blinked in patterns. Sometimes the reflection followed exactly. Other times it didn't. One morning he sneezed. His reflection smiled. Marcus stumbled backward. He began covering mirrors with sheets, all except one. He left the living room mirror exposed, his test subject. A way to observe. That's when the dreams grew worse. Chapter 4. Journal entries. Marcus began keeping a journal to maintain a sense of reality. Day 4. Covered 7 mirrors today. Left one uncovered. I think it's waiting for me. Day 7. Dreamt I was inside the mirror. Everything reversed. My voice sounded distant. The reflection didn't move. I did. Day 9. The mirror hums at night. Low frequency, like it's breathing. Day 11. I stood in front of it for 20 minutes. It blinked twice. I didn't blink. Day 12. It mimics better now. Too well. His handwriting became increasingly erratic. Chapter 5. The Antique Dealer. Desperate for answers, Marcus contacted Harold Brody, the antique dealer who had once worked with his uncle. When Marcus mentioned the mirrors, Harold fell silent. "He kept them all?" he asked finally. "Your uncle was warned. Those aren't antiques, they're locks." "Locks for what?" "You need to get out of that house, son. Those mirrors weren't just collected, they were bound. Your uncle didn't display them. He imprisoned something." Harold refused to explain further, but his last words haunted Marcus. "Whatever lives behind the glass, it learns." Chapter 6. They're learning. Marcus removed every mirror except the one in the living room. He started recording it, setting up his phone overnight. The footage showed hours of stillness. Then at precisely 3:03 a.m. the reflection blinked. The real Marcus did not. Then it walked away from the inside of the mirror. The camera showed nothing in the room, but the reflection paced, studied, practiced expressions. The next morning, Marcus felt drained, as if something had fed on him. Chapter 7. Shadows in Glass. The hallway mirror previously covered had a torn sheet. It was exposed. Marcus hadn't uncovered it. Behind the glass, darkness. Not a reflection, just shadow. Hands emerged within it, pressing against the glass. Fingers tapping from the other side. He touched the mirror. It was cold, wet. He woke up with shallow scratches on his chest. The mirror was clean. Chapter 8. Replaced. One morning, Marcus passed the living room mirror and froze. He was already in it, not walking past, standing, staring. His own reflection was present without him. He inched forward, trembling. The reflection mirrored him now, but wrong. The grin was too wide, the eyes too still. Then the reflection raised its hand and waved. Marcus did not. Chapter 9. The Historian's Letter. In a hidden drawer, Marcus discovered a letter from his uncle. "If you see it move without you, leave. The mirrors are gates. I sealed them with rituals, but seals weaken. It wants to learn. It mimics. Once it's perfect, it crosses. Don't let it watch you too long. Don't look too deeply. Never speak to it." Chapter 10. The Mirror Room. In the attic, behind a locked door, Marcus found the mirror room. Dozens of ornate mirrors faced inward toward a single wooden chair in the center. Burned runes circled the floor. Wax stains and ash hinted at rituals long past. A journal lay on the chair. Pages torn. Scratches across the leather. The last legible entry. "I've sealed it as best I can, but it learns. It waits. If I fail, it will need a new host." Chapter 11. The Ritual. Using his uncle's notes, Marcus prepared the sealing ritual. Salt lines, candles, incantations. He lit the final candle and began the chant. The house groaned. Lights flickered. Every mirror trembled. The reflections screamed. Then silence. All mirrors shattered. Except one. Chapter 12. Trapped. The unbroken mirror remained still. Marcus stared into it. His reflection smiled. Then it stepped forward. Marcus gasped. He felt himself pulled, yanked like a puppet, into the glass. He pounded against it, trapped behind the surface. The thing outside adjusted its collar, smiled at the camera, and walked away. Epilogue: estate sale. Weeks later, a cheerful realtor led a young couple through the house. "The mirrors are vintage," she said. "One of a kind." The hallway mirror stood uncovered. If you watch it closely, you'll see a man inside, screaming silently. But only when no one else is watching. Title: Voices from the 8th Floor. Prologue: The button that shouldn't exist. Lucas Kessler wasn't superstitious. At least that's what he always told himself. Logic ruled his life, from his work in urban planning to the color-coded notes he stuck on his fridge. So when he moved into the old Kreuzberg apartment complex and noticed something odd about the elevator, he shrugged it off. There were 9 floors. The leasing agent told him his place was on the 9th. The elevator had buttons from 1 to 9, seemed normal, until he noticed the button labeled 8 was always a little dimmer. It lit up when pressed, but never stayed lit. The door never opened on 8. "Mechanical issue," he muttered. "Old building." But the old woman in 702 had said something else. "You see the 8th floor?" she'd asked with wide, glassy eyes. "Don't go, don't ever go, that place remembers." Lucas smiled politely and walked away. He had no patience for Berlin ghost stories. Chapter 1: Echoes in Concrete. Lucas moved in on a gray February morning. Rain clung to the windows like cold sweat. He unpacked boxes quickly, eager to make the place feel like home. But even as he filled shelves and hung art, something felt thin. The walls were too quiet. No sounds from neighbors, no footfalls from upstairs. Not even the usual creaks of old pipes. Just silence, like the building held its breath. He didn't notice the voices until the 3rd night. They came faintly through the air vent in the living room. Whispers, low, rhythmic, like a chant in a language he didn't understand. He turned off the TV, strained to listen. The voices stopped. When he told the building manager the next morning, the man just laughed. Vents connect weird in old buildings. You hear everything, especially what you don't want to. Chapter 2: The Elevator Ride. On the 5th night, Lucas worked late, analyzing urban design models. Around midnight, he took the elevator up from the lobby. Alone, fluorescent lights flickered as the car rose. Ding. Floor 3. Ding. Floor 5. He leaned against the wall, eyes closing briefly. Ding. Floor 7. Then the button for 8 lit up by itself. He opened his eyes. Weird. The elevator stopped. The doors slid open. A long, dark hallway stretched out before him. A corridor he'd never seen. Old green carpet. Peeling wallpaper. Lights flickering like candles struggling to stay lit. He stepped forward. Just one step. The door slammed shut. The elevator shot up to 9, where it stopped as if nothing had happened. Lucas turned around, heart pounding. The hallway was gone. Chapter 3: Archive Box 8. He couldn't let it go. The 8th floor wasn't a figment of his imagination. He had stepped onto it, even if only for a moment. Lucas visited the city planning archives during his lunch break. He requested original blueprints of his building. The archivist hesitated, but handed over a yellowed folder labeled Schönhauser Allee 17, 1976. Blueprints revealed something stunning. There was once an 8th floor, 5 units, labeled 801 through 805. But a fire report from 1981 noted a full structural condemnation and emergency removal of the floor. Not ceiling, removal. He scanned every inch of the file. A photo of a burnt corridor. A handwritten note. They said it was the gas line. But gas doesn't whisper. It screams. Lucas copied everything and brought it home. Chapter 4: Sleep. Interrupted. That night his sleep was restless. He woke up to scratching. Inside his closet, he opened the door. Nothing. But the air was cold. Too cold. Like something had been there and only just left. His phone buzzed. A voicemail. Static. Then, "Lucas, why'd you come back?" His blood froze. He hadn't left the apartment that day, and he'd never been to the 8th floor before this week. But someone, or something, thought otherwise. Chapter 5. A Note Beneath the Wallpaper. The next morning, he began peeling at a strange bubble under the wallpaper near his door. Beneath was a torn corner of paper. A note, scribbled in red ink. "They always find the ones who listen." He stared at it for a long time, heart pounding. Then scratching again, this time from inside the walls. And Chapter 6. The girl in 804, he asked around cautiously. An older man in 601 remembered. 804, he said. "Little girl died there, fire. Her name was Clara, 8 years old. Parents died too, but some say she didn't." Lucas felt sick. "What do you mean?" The man leaned in. "Some say she never left. Still plays in the hallway. Still hides in the vents." Chapter 7. Through the Vents. Lucas unscrewed a vent cover that night. Inside, dust, wires, and something else, a photograph. A girl in a birthday dress. Cake. Balloons. Room 804 written on the back. The photo was warm, as if it had just been held. Then, from deep in the vent, "Want to play with me?" His scream echoed into the shaft. More chapters continue, building suspense and layering horror with increasing intensity. Lucas is haunted by Clara, pulled into shifting realities, and begins to lose grip on what's real. Neighbors disappear. Rooms change shape. Mirrors reflect wrong moments. Chapter 29. The Return. He wakes up on the 8th floor, alone, again. This time, he walks the full length of the hallway. Doors open and close. Behind one, his own face. Behind another, a room full of ash. Behind the third, Clara. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispers. "But I am," he says. She smiles. Sadly. "Then you always were." Chapter 30. Exit. No exit. Lucas finds the elevator again. It waits. Doors open. He steps in. He presses 9. It doesn't light up. Only one button glows now. 8. Epilogue. Floor list. A new tenant signs the lease. Apartment 902. He steps into the elevator. "Strange," he murmurs, staring at the faintly glowing button marked 8. He presses it. And somewhere, in the forgotten blueprint of the building, something wakes up again. The end. Voices from the attic. Chapter 1. The House on Ashpine Hill. Claire Mitchell had never believed in ghosts. At 26, she was pragmatic, logical, and freshly divorced, searching for peace and a place to rebuild her life. That's what led her to the house on Ashpine Hill. It was old, Victorian, and far too large for one person, but it was cheap and secluded. Perfect. Or so she thought. On her third night in the house, Claire awoke to faint voices above her ceiling. Not loud, just whispers. Barely audible. She dismissed it as wind, maybe rodents. Still, the sound sent a chill down her spine. It happened again the next night. This time she heard her name. Chapter 2. The Locked Hatch. The attic hatch was located at the end of the hallway upstairs, sealed with thick layers of paint. Claire didn't have the key, and the realtor had brushed off her questions, saying it was just storage. By day, the house felt normal. Light filled the rooms and the wood creaked with comforting age. But by night, the atmosphere changed. The air grew colder. Shadows seemed to linger. And always those whispers. She recorded them. Played the audio back. Her heart skipped a beat. "Claire, let us out." Chapter 3. The Sound Technician. Claire reached out to a friend from college, Julian, who worked in audio engineering. He cleaned up the recording. "It's layered," he said. "There's not just one voice, there are many. Male, female, some I can't identify. Also, there's a frequency anomaly. It's as if these sounds aren't being picked up normally, almost like they're imprinted." He laughed nervously. "Whatever it is, it's not wind." Chapter 4. The First Night Upstairs. Determined, Claire set up a mattress in the hallway near the attic. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the whispering returned. She turned on her recorder, held her breath. But then footsteps from inside the attic, soft, measured, like someone pacing above her head. Then something fell, a heavy thud. She screamed. The attic door rattled. Then silence. Chapter 5. Opening the Hatch. The next day, Claire chipped away the paint around the hatch and pried it open with a crowbar. Dust and mold greeted her. The attic was cramped, filled with boxes and old furniture covered in sheets. But something stood out. In the center of the room was a circle of burnt wood, blackened, charred, ritualistic. On the wall, scratches. "Let us out." She snapped photos, sent them to Julian. Then she saw it. In the corner of one photo, barely visible, a face, gaunt, hollow-eyed, watching. Chapter 6. History of the house. Julian helped research the property. In 1894, it belonged to a spiritualist named Eliza Carr. She hosted seances, claimed to contact the forgotten ones. In 1901, the house was abandoned after 3 guests went missing during a ritual. The local paper called it the Vanishing Room Incident. The attic was sealed shortly after. Claire found an old journal beneath a floorboard. Eliza's handwriting was shaky, frantic. They answer when no one else will. But once they speak, they never stop. Chapter 7. They get stronger. The whispers became voices. The voices became screams. Claire could no longer sleep. Objects moved. Lights flickered. At night, reflections in windows showed figures standing behind her. Julian returned, determined to help. They placed salt lines, candles, recorded new sessions. At 3:33 a.m., all cameras went black. The house vibrated with sound, a language they couldn't understand. Claire collapsed. When she awoke, Julian was gone. Then Chapter 8, the attic opens itself. Days passed. Claire stayed locked in her room, surviving on crackers and water. The attic door remained open. She'd hear footsteps, dragging sounds, breathing. One night she found writing on the walls in her room. "Now you live here too." She tried to leave. The doors wouldn't open. The windows showed darkness even at noon. She was inside something else. Epilogue, Realtor's Note. Weeks later, the house was listed again. Charming Victorian, remote, newly vacated. Key missing for attic door. Do not attempt to access. In the final photo of the listing, if you zoom in just right, you can see a pale hand in the top attic window. It's waving,